Hello, survivors. This is your girl, Abby Ayola Williams, and you're now listening to How to Survive Society. How to Survive Society is a weekly podcast that features survivors. These are people that have been through the ringers in life. They've been through hell and back, but they choose to stay positive, they choose to win, they choose to thrive, and they choose to survive. So let's get right into it. Hello, survivors. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of How to Survive Society. Today, I have a very special guest. His name is Jerry Duggan, and he got married at the age of 21. He witnessed his dad attempt suicide when he was 11, bullied by his extended family, and served in combat, and just all these great things that he's done. And so I'm just gonna let Jerry introduce himself so we can get started and we can learn more and get some gems from him because I feel like he's like the perfect How to Survive Society guest. So Jerry, please introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you, Abby. I'm Jerry Duggan. I'm the host of a podcast called Beyond the Rut. And it's a show that's all about helping people live out their dreams, whether it's a career, to write a book, whatever it is, but to pursue that life of significance without losing their faith, their family, or their health in the process. And that journey started with some friends of mine. We're three men, all Christian, looking to be the best husbands and fathers we could be, and we wanted to share that with other people. So as of today, I've been married 21 years to a wonderful wife who keeps saying yes to me every single day. Uh,
Aw.
yeah, that's what I say too. It's like, what? No way. She still chooses me. Cool. It's almost like uh, in headship terms, which is something they talk about in the Christian marriage circles. They talk about headship a lot. I'm like, I like to think of headship as it's a presidency, but I'm up for
Mhm.
reelection every single day. So
Mm.
how I lead determines how well my wife wants me to be around the next day and the day after that. And they're like, what about submission? I'm like, that's her deal. She's got to worry about that. I got to worry about the headship part. And that's how I look at it. Am I leading in a way that's serving her needs, building her up, and making her feel that she made the right choice? And if the answer
Mhm.
is no, which on some days it makes her wonder, like, seriously. Uh, but on most days, I think I give her enough reason to keep me around. So I'm blessed.
That's sweet. So I want to start from, your childhood, right? So you said that you witnessed your dad attempt suicide when you were 11. So how was that for you, seeing that? And what was going on in your life during that time?
Yeah. So up to this point, I'm a military brat. So born and raised and trained is what we say. So it's the military dependent child. My mom was from Thailand. She still is from Thailand. Um, so I had the stereotypical tiger mom, the one who was very strict. Your kids have to have perfect grades, not just have perfect grades, but be the top student in the class. I
Mm-hmm.
think it comes from a
I can
place of,
relate. Yeah, I
yeah,
can
right.
relate.
uh, and it comes from a place of I want success for my children, but at the same time, like the part that we see is so I could also brag to my friends how my child is smarter than theirs. And
Mm.
so there was a lot of that growing up. And yeah, one day, my dad, he was in the army, excuse me, had orders to go to Germany, except at that time in the 1980s, housing was hard to come by in Germany for your whole family. And he also didn't have orders to take the whole family with him. So he had to go ahead without us to get the orders changed and get housing, get on the wait list, all that stuff. And so for the few months that transpired, my mom encountered a man who basically had just seen the movie Top Gun and thought, we'll place bets, kind of like in the movie with Goose and Maverick, saying on the premises we'll hook up with somebody, and they identified my mom as their target. It was like four guys. They all bet like 1 month's paycheck that one of them would be able to meet her and break up the marriage. That was the
Mm.
plan.
Oh
So
my
yeah, the guy
gosh.
showed up and he just poured into every insecurity that she had. Hey, your husband's already over there with a girlfriend. He's taking his time getting these things fixed for the family. This is what soldiers do. We're men. We have needs, and this is what we do. This is what my guys do when they're on deployment, and we're on deployment right now. And so
Mm.
she started to believe that. So she preemptively left my dad, who was trying his best to get us on his orders so that we could live with him in Germany. But it just wasn't fast enough. This guy worked faster, got in there. And I remember my mom telling my brother and I, while my dad was still in Germany, that she was going to stay behind, that my brother and I were going to go with my dad to Germany, and she was going to stay in the U.S., get her GED, and pursue her dreams. So
Mm.
she tried to, wash it a little bit. Like, that's solely the reason why I'm staying. Let's ignore the part where I came home late one night and your younger brother woke up and saw the boyfriend. Like, we'll just gloss past that part. Um, so my dad does come back, and he does take my brother and I to Germany. And it sounds like we're making our clean break. Like, I'm getting away from a strict mother who wants to work on herself. My dad, he at least salvaged his boys. He got his boys out of this. He got the car. He got the furniture. And for the most part, his wife is making a clean break. So he's putting on the best face he can for us. But it's that first night in Germany that we're making dinner. I mean, we're
Mm.
three bachelors, so dinner was really like ham sandwiches and potato
Yeah.
chips. Nothing too grand there. And I remember we're putting the plates together, and I hear my brother scream, "Dad, stop!" And I turn around, and my dad's holding a butcher knife to his chest,
Oh
and
my gosh.
I'm like, "What is going on here?" And I'm stunned, I'm scared, and I can see my dad's face is red. He's crying, his hands are trembling. And so I'm realizing he's not really going to drive this in. He's thinking about it, but he could go either way. And so I just joined my brother, and I'm like, "Dad, put the knife down. What are you doing?" And I'm
Mm.
11. My brother's 9 at the time, and my dad, he doesn't put the knife down, but he pulls it away from his chest just enough that my brother and I put our hands on his hands, and he releases
Mm.
the knife to us.
Mm.
So we put the knife down. We hug him. He's crying. And I mean, his whole world has fallen apart. He's up to this point thought that he's had just a blessed life, a blessed marriage. He's got a wife who takes care of him. He's got 2 boys. He's got a job. He's doing well in his family standards.
Yeah.
And what he never expected was that his wife was going to leave him. And uh,
Mm.
it's one of those things he took for granted. Um, and so when she decided she was leaving, they had correspondence going back and forth. So it was truly a roller coaster ride for him. He had
Yeah.
one that he interprets as they're going to work things out. And then he'd have another letter where she was very clear, like, "No, we are done." And so he was kind of putting himself through this emotional roller coaster looking back. But yeah, the suicidal tendencies were strong. He didn't know how to handle this. He really had never gone through a major breakup before. He,
Mm-hmm.
this was his only long-term relationship. This one woman he met while stationed in Thailand that he immediately married. And, 13 years later,
Wow.
it's not working out. She's like realized, I don't love this man. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I ever really did. And so she's leaving him. And my dad was he still is a really great guy. He's the kind of guy that he'll give you the last $20 bill in his hand if he knows you're starving, hungry, or if you're one of his kids. He just
Wow.
is so sacrificial like that, and he was like that with my mom. So it was really just she just wasn't there on the same level. She would use
Yeah.
phrases like she learned to love him, or because of the kids, and so
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, so
Wow.
that started our short stint doing suicide prevention. My brother and I, at 11 and 9 years old. So after that event, we tucked him in bed. We gave him, um, he was taking antidepressants, and we saw that he wanted to take all of them, and we're like, no, you're going to get the amount that this bottle says, and we're going to hold on to this for you. He's like, "But I need to take it. We understand, but we're going to give this out to you now." Like, that was in the first night. So we put him to bed, we give him his medicine, and we immediately take every sharp knife in the home, every fork, and we package it all in a plastic bucket, tape it up, and we hide it somewhere in the basement of our apartment building. And I don't know if we ever got that bucket back, to be honest. But yeah, we hid it. Like, it wasn't even in our storage room. Like, we hid it like somewhere in the dark crevices of a scary basement. And
Wow.
I just remember my dad asking, "Hey, where are all the knives?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, we hid all those. We're gonna use plastic from now on." So
Wow. You guys are such great sons, to especially at that age to already know what to do and how to help your father out. Like that's amazing. So did your mom ever find out that the guy that she left your dad for was just a bet to him?
she never fully believed that story. But what eventually did happen after she moved to another state, and they had their own apartment, was that he had done his typical breakup, which is because he was married, he had two kids of his own, and he would just go around on these temporary duty stations and pick up girlfriends. When he was ready to cut off girlfriends, he would let one girlfriend find out about another, and they would kind of confront him, so to speak, and break it off with him. Like, in his eyes, they would be the ones who ended it, not him. And I guess what he didn't count on was that the girlfriend that he told or let find out about my mom, that girlfriend also found out about his wife and kids. So that lady didn't just come and introduce herself to my mom. She also introduced herself to the wife and kids. And so this guy found himself thrown out of 3 homes, including the one that cost him half his paycheck for the rest of his Army career, if not the rest of his life. So yeah, she eventually found out that this guy was rotten and not truly just in it for her. And so that was like a harsh lesson for her, because now she's given up her family. The divorce is finalized. She's broken off all ties with my dad. She and I stayed in touch, though. Like, she didn't talk to my brother as much, but she and I, we stayed writing the whole time. I would still visit. So I kept that relationship open, even knowing that she had ended it on a lie, and knowing that someday she's going to have to come to terms with that. Because, the other side of that is, my dad's got to come to terms with, his wife left him, and she ain't coming back. Even though for the longest time, deep down inside, he still fantasized that she would. And it's just, it's sad to see, he just doesn't have that social awareness to understand that it happened. He's not the brightest man, I guess. He's a very simple guy, very loving guy.
Aw.
And so, like, when you keep that in perspective, it's like, okay, that's who he is. That's what he went through. And how sad for him. And, now those are things I came to terms with as I got older, like in my 20s, not when I was 11. That was just sort of like, all right, we're in survival mode. We got to keep my dad alive. How do we do that? And we're not going to my mom because she's in a situation where it really is not stable. Like, this other guy, like, we knew his story. We knew he was married. We knew he had kids, because my dad had figured all that out already. And, if he's willing to destroy our family, he's also probably willing to throw my brother and I out and do and say what he needs to get us out of the picture. So we knew going to my mom was not an option for the longest time. And, yeah, that was a tough time. So my dad, he did eventually get found out. He eventually wound up hanging himself with a cord that we had missed. And fortunately, the cord broke. He survived, but it left a mark on his neck that he couldn't hide when he went to work the next day. So his boss sees him, and he sees this red line across, Sergeant Duggan's neck, and he's like, "Hey, where'd you get that mark from?" And my dad tried to say, "Well, he just cut himself shaving," and he's like, "Baloney. That's not a shaving scratch. I mean, we're in our 30s. We know how to shave." And so he just started connecting the dots. Okay, he is being seen by a therapist because of the divorce. His wife is giving him a hard time. He's now going through the divorce, like the actual paperwork and stuff. Wow. Maybe he is trying to hurt himself. So his boss called us. We were at home during summer break, and he just asked me, "Hey, is your dad trying to hurt himself?" And I hesitated because we all had this pact. We're not going to rat my dad out, but my dad also had to live by certain rules, like try not to kill yourself. When you go to work, we call you to make sure you got there. When it's time to come home, we'll call you and we'll time you from there. You have X number of minutes to get home, or we tell your boss, because he wanted to keep it secret and just try to deal with it himself. And looking back, it's like, no, we should have actually told his boss on the very first day. But yeah, his boss is asking us over the phone, is your dad trying to hurt himself? And I try not to answer that. He said, well, I'm asking because he's got a big red mark on his neck. There's no hiding that. And that can only come from a rope or a cord.
Wow. That's,
yeah.
And your dad is still alive today, right?
He is, yeah. He's a pain
Okay.
in the butt. He's 73 years old.
Okay.
Miraculously still alive. Survived 2 heart attacks.
Oh my gosh.
Cholesterol through the roof. Diabetic. And I'm like, your time here is not done, sir. Statistically, you should have died 4 times already.
Wow. Did he ever remarry?
He did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, probably not the best relationship, but it's one. He cares for her. He does.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just got that big heart again.
Aw, that's good. So
Uh,
you served in the combat during the Iraqi freedom, and you
yes.
survived a Deadpool. What is a Deadpool?
So yeah, I did one thing that my dad told me to never. My dad never prohibited me from doing anything except join the army, and of course, 4
That's what
years
you did.
after that. Yeah, 4 years later, I'm like, Dad, I joined the army, and he's like, Wait, I said don't join. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm broke and I need to get some work experience in the medical field. So that's why I joined the army, was to get medical experience, but also travel. What I didn't know is that in basic training, so we called it day 0. It's not even the first day of actual training. It's the day they're kind of assembling the unit that'll train together for 9 weeks. At least at the time, basic training was 9 weeks. I think it's longer now. But our drill sergeant is making us do push-ups, flutter kicks, sit-ups, run in place, jumping jacks, all kinds of exercise to make us throw up and respect his authority on day 0. And while we're taking a breather, he's, doing his little pep talk. And one of the things he says is, this is Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Every summer, somebody dies here of heat stroke. And it's already June and no one has died yet. So I'm going to run you through your paces today to see if we can just get that out of the way. And when he said that, everybody,
Wow.
there's 64 of us, and 63 faces all turned and looked at me. And I kind of looked over my left shoulder to see who they were looking at. And it turns out there was nobody past me. Like, I was the last guy, and they were looking at me. So a Deadpool is where people place bets. Who's going to die, how, and when, and all that stuff. So that day was the day that inspired a group of them. I don't know how many people were involved. I didn't even know this thing was a thing until like the second to last week of the program, if not the last week of the program. And there was only one guy they had in the pool, and that was me. So the bet was, when is Duggan going to die and how? And
What? That
yeah.
is insane.
The default bet was heat stroke, just like Drill Sergeant said. So when is he going to die of heat stroke? And a couple other folks put in things like suicide. And it's like, joke's on you, because I already committed. I'm never going to commit suicide. They didn't know about that part of my life. So yeah, heat stroke was the main thing they all bet on. I think one person thought I was going to accidentally shoot myself during the firing ranges. Somebody thought since I'm a short guy, I'll fall off one of the obstacles and break my neck. So this is all based on the rumors I heard. Now, as basic training went, people would call me names like effing Duggan, mother effer. It's like I had words attached to my name that weren't positive.
Wow.
As we got closer to graduation, though, people started cheering me on, and I'm like, why are they all cheering me on? And it wasn't until like the final days of basic training, I'm cleaning the barracks with a guy named Bohannon. I still remember him to this day. Very nice guy. Out of nowhere, he starts apologizing to me, and I'm like, why are you apologizing to me? And he said, well, before that, he's even praising me. He's like, Duggan, I just want to let you know, I am so honored to know you, and I'm inspired by you. And I'm like, huh? like we're just cleaning the floor. Where is this coming from? And he said, yeah, I want to apologize. I'm like, for what? He said, well, you may not know, but we've had this betting pool going against you of when you were going to die. And I just lost yesterday. I was like, what? I thought he was joking. He said, yeah, we had bets placed on when and how you were going to die right up to the day of graduation. So almost everybody has lost now. There's just one guy who's holding out that you're going to fall down the stairs. So we're all kind of protecting you. So he also loses. I'm like, is that why there's like this whole mob around me when we're going down the stairs? Like I didn't even have to hold on the railing. Like I would just be very well protected as I was going up and down stairs. I'm like, that bastard. No, I don't know. You might have to bleep that out. I just gave you an explicit rating. And so it just blew my mind though. I'm like, wait, you guys placed bets on when I was going to die? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, why didn't you guys tell me? And they're like, well, we didn't want to encourage you. I'm like, I would have placed a bet. I would have won because I'm not going to die. But it was kind of a nice lesson in life for me, because it's like, even when people aren't betting for you, you got to at least bet for yourself. And like even growing up, it's like, so I had that traumatic experience when I was 11, but you would think that would be the end of it. But from 11 to about 14, I got bullied by my cousins and uncle, and like one of my cousins' like best friend from across the street. And I mean, they would call me all kinds of names: gook, chink, half-breed, boat person, you name it. And so for 3 years, I got bullied by my own family. And I just thought, wow, they're betting against me. They're hoping I fail. I'm not going to fail. I don't want to live the life they've got. Their life sucks. That's why they're all mad. And, they're mad at me because I want to be something different, something better than what I was before. And so just that moment though, surviving that Deadpool in basic training was just a reminder of that. Like, hey, you've set out to be a better person today than you were yesterday. You're living your life. You're the one striving for your success. It doesn't matter if people are betting against you. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. So what Army leadership lessons did you learn and find successful now that you live in a civilian life?
Oh man. Well, screaming at people doesn't work. Actually, it really doesn't. It turns out, like in the military, like all the movies, it shows us always yelling at each other. The reality is that's used for a specific purpose, and that's to recreate stress so that when you need that training, you're going to need that training when you're getting shot at. Things are blowing up around you and there's chaos. And so you're going to be in a stressful mindset, even a fearful one. And that's, when you look at how our mind remembers things, it's typically the emotional state we're in that also helps with that memory. So a lot of the yelling that you hear about or see in the movies is really to ingrain that training so that when you're under that kind of stress again, that training just clicks right back in. So when you hear people say, yeah, the training just clicked in, that's part of that. That's not really my answer to your question. Army lessons that really carry over well really have to do with taking care of your people so that your people are the ones taking care of the mission. So, from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in a sense, are you providing a fair wage for your employees so that they can focus on the job itself and getting significance out of the work, as opposed to thinking about how much they're not getting paid or utilized? Because it's usually when they don't have that sense of belonging and the sense that they're doing meaningful work that they really start to pay attention to that first thing. Like, well, I'm also not really being provided for with my paycheck or my growth opportunities, so I'm going to be out of here. And that was from a lieutenant who told me, always take care of the 3 M's when you're taking care of your soldiers: their meals, their money, and their mail. And he said, you take care of those 3 things on deployment, your soldiers will take care of the mission every single time. And how do I correlate that to Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Is the meals is that baseline, that survival mode of I am able to provide meals for my family. The money part also kind of ties into that, but money could also be that status symbol, that that high 5-figure salary or that 6-figure salary also kind of denotes some sort of like sense of status and being appreciated. so that you're valued in a sense, recognized for the value you bring to the organization, being reflected in your paycheck. And then the mail is kind of like your connection overall. Like, do you have a sense of belonging with everybody, and a sense of meaningfulness in the work that you do? And so if you're providing that for your people, you're providing clarity of what you're looking for. The commander's intent is another thing. Before every mission, when we do a briefing, we would start off with the commander's intent. So the commander's intent is no matter what, because we have this firm belief that no plan ever survives first contact with the enemy, or as Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's kind of the same. Yeah, it's so true, right? It's like, we had a plan, but the moment other people got involved, it went haywire. And so this commander's intent tells you what is the ultimate thing we're trying to do, no matter what happens. And that allows your team to have the flexibility to adjust the plan the moment it doesn't work anymore, because they know what the intent of the leader is. So that would be the second thing. So the first thing, take care of the 3Ms, take care of your soldiers. They'll take care of the mission. And the second thing is communicate the commander's intent. And the third one is really delegate responsibility. So, if I pass on the responsibility of one of my training programs to a member of my team, that team member is 100% responsible for the success of that program. And that includes making it better than it was before. So if he or she says, I've got an idea to make this better, and they understand my intent is to develop emerging leaders, or to develop managers into directors, or to improve interpersonal dynamics on a team. If they understand what the commander's intent or my intent is with that responsibility, whatever they come up with to make the program better will be aligned with that.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So before we go, I know survivors, they always listen to this. And you've survived quite a few things.
A few.
What advice would you have for the survivors that are still going through something in life and trying to be the best that they can be?
Yeah. If you're going through a hard patch right now, understand that it'll pass, that there is hope on the other side of what you're going through. I know in the Bible they talk about going through a valley. Get through the valley, endure it, learn from it, and just keep in mind, life is just too short to live stuck in a rut, is a phrase I like to use. And if that's the case, then whatever I'm doing to hold myself back in that rut or through that tough time, I need to let that go. And hopefully it's the same thing for you. Like, if there's anything you're holding on to that's holding you back, let it go. If it's bitterness towards somebody else, forgive them. My wife still wonders, how do I have a relationship with my mom, who is your typical tiger mom? Says probably some of the rudest things ever. But when you look at everybody around her, I've probably got the closest relationship with her. And it's because I decided when I was, in my late teens, early 20s, to forgive her. Whatever I'm holding on to, whatever bitterness, let it go. Because in the end, it's not going to matter. And she's going to get to a point where she realized what happened. And she did. And she's going to need that forgiveness to get past that.
Yes.
And I'm going to need to forgive her so that I can move forward. And I come across a lot of folks that they just want to harbor and hold on to things. My dad still holds on to things, and it's held him back in his 73 years of living. And I just think, man, if my dad can only recognize the power of letting something go and moving forward, he would probably not have a complaint in the world either. And he's, again, one of the nicest guys I know. And he still holds on to some things. So yeah, let it go, get out of that rut, and live that life to the fullest. Make an impact. You can do it.
Thank you by your story, because it was good. So thank you so much.
Oh,
And
thank
have
you so much.
Big thank you to our guest for today. And if you would like to learn more about today's topic, please go on howtosurvivesociety.com. There you can get some life skills courses and some merchandise, and contact me if you would like to be a guest on the show. So thank you so much for tuning in and have yourself a lovely day.